Motlop, Fantasia. Perfect start, Port Adelaide. Fantasia's got 4.
Welcome to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot. I'm in ISO. I've had a positive close contact. My old man's tested positive COVID, so I've had to go into isolation. I got ships in the night. Saw Dad. He picked up kids from school the other day, and so I've come back negative twice, and next Tuesday I'll have to ping negative again to get back in studio. But I feel good. Dad feels good. He reckons he's about an 8.5 out of 10. He's already had one jab, so he's good, and everyone around us has all gone negative as well. So we're just taking the right precautions. So next week, hopefully I'll be back in the studio, unless MG or someone else pings. But it's good to be back, and it's good to be betting. And MG, you're steering the ship in there, nice and lonely.
Yeah, thanks for the medical report there, Scooty. I'm sure everyone was worried about it. That's a good update. I'm stuck in the office, staying away from you. So I've got all the channels to myself. I don't have to wrestle over the remote. So it's good. Yeah, lucky we've got 5 TVs to watch.
Nothing better. And I just because I've left the office, it doesn't mean I'm going to give you an easy time. And I open the show with a little bit of a side swerve, and it's Fantasia. He's kicked 4 goals, and if we rewound the tapes to see your little description of Orazio Fantasia going to Port Adelaide, I think you called him a cat, and he was needed to step up and not much of a big deal. Do you want to change what you said pre-season to now? He's won them a final nearly.
Well, he didn't win him a final. He was part of the win. There's a difference. And now he's carrying a knee injury, so he might not play going forward. So I don't know. Put him in the same category as Toby Green. One of the better players, as you call him, but not there when they really need him. Listen, he played a good game. He did come in with a reputation that needed to be proven. Wasn't doubting his ability. But yeah, he stood up and he played a good game. But hopefully for Port Adelaide in 2 weeks' time, he can get back up, because he was medical subbed out apparently. So not through the concussion rule, but a bit of a knee complaint. So we'll see if he comes up, which he should in 2 weeks' time.
The commentary from BT, it was like it was nauseating. Really, like he was made out of plastic or paper, and he was just waiting for him to get snapped in half. And fair setup. BT, I was actually surprised that BT had called the game, given he'd nearly blown himself up in his own home only days earlier. What do you make of the Port Adelaide win? Can they go all the way? And now that the grand final's been locked in at Perth, surely that bodes well for them. Nice, fast deck.
Yeah. I think right now, with all final series, when you get the week off and you're into the last 4 straight away, you get to sit back, all the bumps and bruises come out, and you get the other 4 teams going to war. You've definitely got an advantage. Right now, looking at it, it's definitely Melbourne, Port Adelaide grand final. I don't think too many people stray from that until it comes to prelim weekend. So if you're Port, you're very happy. You don't have too many injuries, concerns. You get well rested, and as you said, you go to a fast deck. They've got no excuses. They're well placed, and they get the job done. They should face Melbourne in the grand final now.
You're surrounded by Essendon supporters, and have they stopped whinging yet? They did get beaten by 50 points, but the commentary all through the week is all about Cody Waitman diving for free kicks. I'm tipping Cody's just sitting at home, and he'd be enjoying and lapping that sort of banter up. But they're absolutely kidding themselves, the Essendon team. I think it was more than just Cody.
Cody Waitman's, he's a bit of a mini Toby Green, isn't he? Plays similar positions. He's a good overhead mark and stuff like that, and just really gets under the skin of not necessarily opposition players as much, but definitely seems the supporters don't like him. Although Essendon supporters don't really warm to many other supporters. They love a moan. I did see the statistics come out, Scoot, during the week, and Essendon love hanging their hat on something that they win most years, apparently, is the most free kicks against over a season. So this year they didn't win that award, so that, maybe they'll be a bit quieter this summer. But listen, they had a good year overall, Essendon. They've got nothing to complain about, and I think they really should pull their heads in a bit with the umpires and stuff, because it had nothing to do with the result. They got beaten. When you get beaten by 50 points, you can't go hunting the umpires, in my opinion. They had a good finish of the year, and they should just get ready for 2022.
There's a couple of bad beats last week. Minnen not kicking the goal set the margin to 40 plus, so that killed us on our free tip Friday and your bet in that match. And Oh, for me, lock of the week. It was absolutely sickening. Sydney Swans, they kicked 2-7 in the fourth quarter. And Sydney Swans, they've had a massive year. And to go down like that and miss absolute sodas not to ice that match out. Any wonder Geelong are fuming.
Yeah, it was probably the low light out of the weekend, I think, the Sydney Swans. They dominated the last quarter to kick 2 goals 7 to a point. To lose by a point, there's no excuses to be made. Their season should be still alive. They should be still playing. The Giants can consider themselves very lucky to be playing Geelong this weekend. But that was actually a double banger game, Scoot, with the bad beats. Your Swans getting over the line head to head, and also the total for the over punters that were following the Sting. We only needed 28 points going into the last quarter, and they kicked 2 goals 8 combined. So that was bit of a bad beat on two fronts there.
Let's have a look at the bookie wrap. It was a pretty good story for the punters. Favourites went 3 and 4, 75% the line. Also good for the minus backers there, 3 out of 4. And then the totals, low scoring. So finals footy has hit there, 1 out of 4. And then for the season, we're rattling off at 65% of the favourites have won, 44% of the favourites have covered the line, and 52% of the totals have sailed over. Yeah, it was a disappointing week for you, slightly, but a couple of sick beats, as we've said. Let's have a look at the hit and misses. So where the money's gone across the market. Port line was 2.5 to 5.5. 43-point victory was emphatic. I've never seen Geelong fumble, and it was probably as bad of a first week of finals as I've seen from the Cats for a couple of years. We'll talk about that in a sec. The total... it hit as well, 156.5 into 149.5. The GWS line, it was 8.5 to 4.5, won by a point. The Melbourne total was middled, 153 to 150.5, so 153 there. And the Western Bulldogs total, 155.5 down to 149.5, and it hit the 121. So it was greasy conditions. You called it early around the weather, but
it was a dominating week for the punters, actually, and it was a rare weekend for the punters across the board. Because speaking of the racing guys earlier, it's the first time they've had a fill up of that magnitude. Yeah. So the whole weekend, finally the punters get one on the board. It's been a couple of months, I would have thought, before the bookies have actually haven't raked it in. So yeah, you see there from the hit and misses, there wasn't a miss on the board from the AFL over the weekend.
What did you think about the Cats? Like, it was a really sloppy performance for mine, and I can't recall so many players being off their game.
Yeah, no, Port were dominant. That first half was, as you said, all of a sudden you sound like you might be on the Port bandwagon late in the season here, but their first half was really dominant against the Cats, and they were found wanting for answers. I don't know where Geelong go to. I think they've definitely got the luck of the draw coming up against the Giants this week, which we'll discuss later in the program, which should keep them alive for another week and get them into the last four. And once you're in the last four, you only have to turn up on the day, and all of a sudden you're in the grand final. So, I think Geelong will respond.
I think they'll bounce back, and I'm not sure if I'm completely in Port's corner yet. I still like the D's. I'll be more keen the D's if it was at the MCG. I think, there might be a slight edge to Port Adelaide over in Perth, and I probably can't rule out Brisbane or the Bulldogs. I thought they were still okay, and they can still come from a decent position, and they've been pretty solid all year. So I think injuries and weather and how things will pan out in the next couple of weeks will decide it. But definitely, and obviously, Port and the D's are in. Definitely in the box seat. Sting in the tail. There could be a couple this week in AFL. First one that's sort of irking me, and while I love the AFL that has continued to go on, we are 18 months into this pandemic at the moment, and the state premiers, their attitude around just jetting players and their families and officials in and out of state borders is absolutely pathetic. And they need to start approving some exemptions, and especially with Queensland, their own residents are getting locked out. So there's one little tiny sting in the tail. I'm sure everyone's had a gutful. And as much as I do like the AFL, the NRL, keep the show on the road and entertain everyone, it just needs to be some leniency out the other way with the state premiers. They're cash hungry, and it's absolutely revolting what they're doing to people's lives, and it needs to change instantly. The other tricky one here we've got is Toby Green. I might get your buy-in here, MG. He just should know better, shouldn't he?
Yeah, it was. Geez, if you're on the Giants going forward, a very disappointing outcome. I just think it's time for, and again, it's not only the player, in my opinion, and he needs to take full responsibility, which, I don't think he's owned up for it. I saw the captain, Caniglio, put out a presser, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, saying that Toby Green would accept responsibility, blah, blah, blah. But you get the transcripts of the tribunal. He still went in there and said, no, I didn't, no, I didn't, no, I didn't. So I'm not sure where he's accepted his responsibility. Maybe Caniglio is more expressing that he's moved on and got around the team and helping to move forward for this week's game. But in terms of, I would have rather seen the Giants not go to the tribunal. They should have just copped what was coming to him, really focused in on this week's match and really moved on and put Toby aside and maybe left him out of the calculations going forward. For mine, I think it might have been a greater punishment internally if Toby Green was perhaps left out of the team going forward for the rest of the final series, whether it's just this week or all the way to the grand final. For him to miss that experience, especially if, it's unlikely at this stage without Toby Green, but if they did go on and make the grand final, I think that's the biggest penalty that would have been if Toby Green was actually left out of all that moving forward, because there's no excuse for what he did, and to try and explain in his initial that he did not see the umpire in front of him is laughable for mine.
It was, just clear stupidity. Something else that we've been speaking about is the coaches' merry-go-round and Craig McRae to Collingwood. It's been a nice little bit of battle between Hawthorn and Collingwood. They were trying to maybe flush out Sam Mitchell. Were they trying to get Glyco? Were they happy with one or the other, Collingwood? They've ended up with a forward-line coach in Craig McRae. He seems really well-credentialed. He's done a long apprenticeship. And I think they might have gone the right way with a no-frills type personality. If he can handle the media and the pressure, he may become a pretty good coach. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a left field decision, especially we were discussing it earlier. Don't know where he was in the lineup of the initial coaches when Buckley left, who would be Collingwood's next coach. I'm certain he wasn't in the top 10 or 20 in the betting. But yeah, you're right. His credentials are fantastic. He's been around both Richmond and Hawthorn. And especially Richmond over the last little journey he's been there, and he's also going to bring in Lepage, which he stated in his conference that he's the best assistant coach in the country. So whether that's a correct call or not, he's going to have the right people around him. They've really cleared out the coaches going forward. So hopefully Collingwood have a different game style going forward as well. He might free up the game style and stuff like that, because Collingwood have, as fan base, have been suffocated with poor excuses for games, in my opinion, for a long time now. So it'd be good to see a different game style also come into Collingwood for their fans to get around. So hopefully, I think going forward, especially for next year, I think it's going to be a long bow for him to show some progress. I can't see him making finals at this stage, just with their handicap in both the draft picks they've got and also the salary cap is going to make it hard to improve. But as you said, if he can handle the pressure of a big club, maybe he's the right decision going forward.
Be fascinating to see. And fortunately, they've blooded a lot of kids, and I think they're in a bit better shape than some of the other sides. There's definitely
and they've had a lot of injuries as well, Scoot. I know a lot of teams have a lot of injuries each year. Collingwood's definitely had the curse this year, which put them in, and they'll get their back line in. Darcy Moore can't be understated how much he's been missed in this club. So to get him back with Howe as well, it'll make a big difference to Collingwood.
Outstanding stuff. So that's sting of the tail. So state premiers need to pull their socks up. Toby Green, no excuses, absolute pure stupidity. And let's hope that Collingwood can turn it around with some good fortune in the coaches' ranks, and we'll see what progresses down at Carlton. They need to figure that out ASAP. It was a big, massive weekend of NRL last week. It was the Melbourne Storm. Very surprising loss against Parramatta Eels. They finally found a backbone, the Eels. And then South Sydney, they crushed the Roosters. But the big news there is Latrell Mitchell is out. He's with that shoulder charge. He made an absolute meal of the Sydney Roosters players there. So we'll ask Top Rope if they can still challenge for the premiership. But as a South Sydney supporter, I think our hopes have faded against the top echelon of Penrith and the Storm. But interesting time at the moment, and Manly also a rough chance there. We'll talk some of the last week of NRL up soon, but before that, we'll preview this week's AFL finals, semi-finals, and then we'll talk to Ace because it's all starting to heat up at the US Open. The tennis has just started to roll into town in New York, and we'll get some best bets for him. But we'll take a break. If you're having a bet this week, make sure you check out topsport.com.au. They've been in the game for 36 years, not 35 anymore, 36 years, and they're Australia's biggest betting bookie. So make sure you check out topsport.com.au and bet with the bookmaker you can trust. Up next, we'll talk semi-finals with MG. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm losing the plot here. It's only a week of ice, so I've got 1 week to go. I'm absolutely losing my mind. So thank God the sport's on. It's Thursday. There's some rugby league tonight. But Friday night is Geelong Cats versus GWS Giants at Perth. Over with Mr. McGowan, $1.37 the Cats at Top Sport, $3.20 the Giants, no Toby Green, 16.5, and the total there is 154.5. 8 o'clock game for us earlier over there in Perth. Thoughts here, MG?
No home ground advantage. So, it's a bit harder to work out than normal finals going forward. Obviously, we would have home ground advantage, which we have got in the next match, which we'll talk about in a sec. But, this one in Perth, so that takes it out. The line opened up here at 11.5, probably halfway with the Toby Green incident, I guess. And now it's obviously moved to 16.5 with Toby Green missing. I think this line has probably got a bit more in it too, Geelong. I think the late money will keep heading that way. I can't see too much money around for the Giants without Toby Green. They've got one or two other injuries as well. They've been on the road now for 2 months, coming out of Tasmania, going all the way to Perth. There's a lot of negatives on the Giants side, and I just think, that they really shouldn't have got past Sydney last week. So I think they're kind of free rolling, but I take it that they're running out a bit of steam, Scoot. So, I think Geelong were very disappointed in their effort against Port last week, and I think they'll rebound strongly. And if I was looking to have a bet in this game, I'd favour Geelong. Whether you're just taking them head to head in the multis and at 16.5, I think if they get on top early, I think the Giants will be found wanting.
It's an interesting one with the Giants. They've won the last 3 against the Cats, and then I think they were 39-point underdogs in round 21 and upset them then.
At Geelong. The difference is they don't have Toby Green. So I just think it all kind of weighs up in finals. I think watching the last quarter against Sydney, I just think they were a bit out of petrol tickets. I really think with the travel involved, the key stat for me this week is Geelong's coming off a 7-day break and GWF off a 6-day break, and they've got to travel, as we said, from Tasmania to Perth. I just think this is a bridge too far for the Giants. I just think they got a few too many holes. Geelong get Tui back. I think it's a big in. While Giants lose both the Greens, so not only Toby Green but also Tom as well. So I just think with the matchups, I think Geelong made top 4 for a reason, and the Giants, you've got to also remember, were playing a lot of finals to get to this point. And yes, they did beat Geelong down at the Cattery. I'm not taking anything away from that, but also the mindset that the Giants also had to win to make finals. And I just think a bit like a tennis player getting through the qualifiers in majors, Scoot. They might produce 1 or 2 rounds, but they're never found the second week. And this is equivalent of the second week, and I think Geelong will get the job done comfortably.
I think, they definitely jumped the Swans last week, and I tend to agree. I think Geelong will bounce back, and I just saw so many players just out of touch, and it was a real unlike Geelong performance, and they rebound as good as anyone. So correct. I sort of made you work through that preview, but I'm definitely with the Cats as well. I just want to make sure that you're still getting it done in there with me and ISO and you in the studio. Make sure you're all across it. But no doubt the Cats look like the safe way to bet, that's for sure. Saturday night, we've got a cracking match. This is the pick of the two. It might be a snooze fest, the first Friday night game, unless Geelong pull a high score out of their pocket. But it should be a low-scoring scrap, I would have thought, on the Friday night. But Saturday night, we're in for a different treat here. Brisbane Lions, $1.62. The Western Bulldogs, $2.36 on the line, 8.5. And the total there is 164.5. The Gabba, it's been a happy hunting ground for the Lions. They got a dominant home record here.
Yeah, we'll be rocking the Gabba. Just quickly on those totals, as you said, I think the first game definitely lean to the under if you're backing. I think the total out at 154.5 at Top Sports. I think it's more about a 150 game there, Scoot, so comfortably to the under there if I was having to bet. Conversely, in this game, even though it is Saturday night at the Gabba instead of the day, I think there could be points in this game looking forward to the total. So around that 164.5, I'd be unders in the first game and slightly overs in the second if you are betting the totals. For the match, this one is the pick of them for sure. Bulldogs were on top of the ladder with, 3 weeks out, I think, Scoot, and, managed to lose their way out of the top four, but they, you'd have to say they're a genuine top four team. As with Brisbane. So I think this matchup is the pick out of the two. Brisbane, massive home ground advantage. They've won 9 straight there to finish the year. I think they lost the first game, might have been to Adelaide, I think, maybe round 1 or 2 in the year. If you remember, Brisbane got off to a real ordinary start. So they've won 9 straight. Home ground advantage massive. And the key thing on top of the home ground advantage for me, Scoot, is the Bulldogs again coming out of Tasmania. Where I think it's been, we'll call it sub 10 degrees temperatures going into Brisbane's going to be a nice 24, 25. So that might just shock the Bulldogs a bit. Even though it is at night, there'll still be heat in the air. So I think that's a massive home ground. With the crowd, they're expecting a full house, Scoot. So we'll be teased again on the TV screen, seeing people enjoy themselves, having a beer, watching footy. Bit different to our lives in the Vic. But I really like this game. As I said, I think there'll be points in the total. We've got the number 1 offense v the number 2. I know Brisbane have lost McStay, which is...
I think McStay's is... I'd nearly say Brisbane were over the line, but McStay out opens the door for the Bulldogs, in my opinion, big time. Yeah,
it creates chaos. I think, Toby Green's obviously a massive loss, as we said, for the Giants. I just think structure-wise... McStay on top of Hipwood, and as we spoke about earlier in the year with Rayner. So now when you put down Brisbane's best side at the start of the year, they're actually missing 3 of their 6, what would have been their starting forwards, are now missing. So, it's a big hole to fill.
And Rayner, it's incredible that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, really, as you said, I agree with you. If McStay was playing this weekend, I know the betting would be a bit different, but Brisbane would be good things in my opinion. But it certainly changes a lot because Brisbane now don't have an answer for covering McStay. They're talking maybe taking Adams from the back line to fill the role at centre-half forward. He's kind of done that in the past a long time ago, and he is a big body, so he might be able to crash a pack, bring it to ground for their littler players, but then that takes away from the back half. They're maybe talking about bringing in a player like Jack Payne, who doesn't have the experience, final experience, big game, could be found wanting at the back. So it's a bit, a bit taken away from your back half, maybe to supply the forward half. But if it's not working, they might have some problems during the game, Brisbane, if the Bulldogs can control the back half.
It's going to be a fascinating contest here in the middle with Neil Lyons, Zorko, McCluggage against Bontempelli, McRae, Libba and Treloar. And given the quality of these midfields, I actually think that both these sides can even challenge for the grand final still, given it's at Perth.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, both of these sides are definitely in the top 4 sides all year. And the winner of this, they've got the harder road. They've got to go to Port Adelaide, obviously, next week. And then, obviously, all things being played out accordingly, we'll play Melbourne. So they've definitely got the tougher draw. And they've got deficiencies, but on their day, they're definitely capable of going all the way for sure, Scoot. So can't disagree. They're deep midfields, and they will trouble all the sides left in this competition.
Let's have a look at the premiership market with topsport.com.au, and the D's are favourites there at $2.60. Port Adelaide $3.50. The Cats are $6. $8.50 the Lions. The Bulldogs $9.50, and then GWS $16. Is there anything that tickles your fancy here, MG?
No, I don't think there's too much meat on the bone, Scoot. I'm just going to have to stick fat with the bets personally that I've got. I've got Brisbane playing Bulldogs this week, so I'll have one into the last 4, but it hasn't panned out the way. Yeah, I just think now you can almost back the all-ups as well. If you like a side going forward, You just better back in the all-ups with the percentage that they take out. But, if I'm sure most people are piling in a lot of multis at this time of the year, and Melbourne and Port Adelaide would both be very popular.
We're not going to have a look at the Brownlow medal market. You can head to littlebirdiepod.com Brownlow 2021 and you can buy your way into the Brownlow stream. The bank, we're still 15 days out from closing that bank. I think it's just been announced that it's going to be Sunday, the 19th of September. So make sure you tune into our live stream and you can deposit $50 or $1,000, up to $1,000 for our live stream. I think we've got about 12,000 in the kitty. And Mark's going to tear into all the Top Sports Brownlow markets. So there's not much action there at the moment from Top Sport, but as that lockout clock starts to count down in the last few days, we'll start to fire in a couple of bullets. So if you want Mark and us to do your Brownlow medal betting on the night and you want to watch us while the Brownlow is on, we've got a stream. So we'll have a couple of special guests in the Little Birdie headquarter cave, and we'll go through the Brownlow. We'll go through round by round so you can preview and bet in play. Top Sport will have round by round betting. So if you want to bet on who's going to get the 3, the 2, and the 1 across all the different matches, we'll have a heap of content to help point you in the right direction. So it's going to be a massive, massive night, Brownlow night, and don't mind it. Push to a Sunday. Absolutely outstanding stuff, and can't wait for the Brownlow count. This year will be an absolute cliffhanger. That is for sure. One of the best you've seen, and I think we've pushed it out. It's going to be probably one of the most exciting counts since '93 when Wanganeen upset Diesel MG.
That was an exciting count.
Wasn't it?
That's not nice. Oh, no. Yeah, no, it's going to be, I mean, the last 5 years, we've spoken about it in the past, it's been dominant favourites, and now we're pretty much $3 the field with, 4 or 5 chances that can win the Brownlow. So this count will be as good as you've ever seen, I think. So it should be a high count. I think the winner has to go north of 30 as well. So your favourite players will be getting plenty of action, and we look forward to tearing it apart and guiding the punters to the winner all the way through the count.
Fantastic stuff. All right, we'll take a break. That's our AFL preview for this weekend. And next we'll talk to Ace. It's US Open time, and we'll get a couple of tips in the tennis and think about who's going to win the US Open this year. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot. I've got MG in studio, and we've got Ace previews on the line. It's time to talk US Open. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks very much for having me, guys.
Mate, it's fantastic at the moment. Perfect for ISO conditions. US Open, and the time slot's a little bit more favourable because you get the matches just roll into into your lunchtime.
Yeah, it's favourable. I think particularly if you enjoy the night sessions. I think if you commit to an early match that starts around 1 a.m. Melbourne time, that's where the next day starts to get a little bit dicey. So, look, they've been nice. Get a couple of good night sessions, and it should improve, I think, over the course of the fortnight as well. It's been an interesting start on both the men's and the women's sides.
And not all the big seeds are there. Let's have a look at the men's matches and market, thanks to topsport.com.au. No surprises, the favourite. Novak Djokovic is 176, Medvedev 390, Zverev $6, Tsitsipas 11, Rublev is 29, Shapovalov 34. I'm not going to say Mateo's name. That's $34. And no doubt Ace has found a couple of matches that we'll talk about later, and I can't pronounce any of their names. But thoughts here is Novak's the man to beat, and a good bet here.
Yeah, look, I've been against him the last couple of tournaments. He's made me look silly. So I have flipped, and I've started with Novak here as he was my pre-tournament play. And he looks to be a decent price here. And I think when you really map it out, I think the biggest hurdle for him and his biggest danger is actually himself. I think it's either going to be, the biggest dramas are probably either injury or potentially him really, I guess, not handling the pressure or the occasion of being someone capable of winning the 4 Grand Slams across the calendar year. So he has a really favourable start, and I think a lot of the other names are really going to be knocking each other off before getting to Novak. It's just about whether, potentially Zverev or Medvedev are probably the 2 names that are going to be the biggest threats outside of himself in terms of claiming the title here. But one to look out for. I was a little bit wary of Denis Shapovalov's draw because he was placed so close to Carreño Busta and Khachatov in the draw, and they've both lost in the first round. So things have opened up for him. But I think think if you wanted to go somewhere away from Novak, I wouldn't be able to talk you out of Medvedev based on his draw through basically until the semi-final.
Well, okay. So some value there. All right, let's have a look at the women's. It's generally a lottery, the women's. Got Ash Barty, 370 favourite. Naomi Osaka, that's Mark's girl, 550. Sabalenka, $12. Krejcikova is 15. Pliskova, 16. Swiatek, that's Ace's girl, $19. Bensic, 21. Coco, I think, has just been eliminated. And Halep is $22. Any value there?
I think looking at the moment, it's hard to go against Ash Barty overall. She, a bit like Novak, has a pretty solid draw. And I think that the key thing for her is you've got Osaka and Sabalenka in the other half. So they'll have to face each other if they do make it through to the semi-final for the right to face the winner of the top half. So I think, looking at her draw, I don't see any significant issues until maybe a Swiatek or Bencic in the quarterfinals. Jessica Pegula could maybe, challenge her a little bit there in that first quarter. But I think you look through the second quarter, it's full of, you got Pliskova, you got Andreescu who's been injured and struggling. So there's no one in that second quarter that's a worry for me, I think, in terms of Barty. So I think she's a good spot. Looking down to the bottom, I don't mind keeping Osaka safe just because she does build into tournaments relatively well and she looked good in week one. But round one, she looked at, I think Angie Kerber is probably one to keep an eye on as a potential threat to her in terms of making the final. And the other name, and I'm impressed that you've got the pronunciation right after the last couple of slams, Barbara Krejcikova is one to watch as well. She looked really good to start this week, and I think she's one that can really knock off the winner of Azarenka or Muguruza in the next round, were she to face them, and is a real capable chance of beating Sabalenka in a potential quarterfinal.
Well, Ace, I've been doing my homework. I've adapted the Serena Williams approach to the US Open. I've just been sitting here smashing popcorn and enjoying it from afar. But let's try and find a bet now and a winner right now. And let me butcher these players. We're going to the ATP. We're going to the men's side. Nicolas Basilashvili is now a favourite over Maxime Cressy, $1.42 Nicolas, and $2.85 is Maxime Cressy. And the line there is a flat 4, 180 at the minus, and then the under-over gains is 39.5. How'd I go there, and who are we betting?
Yeah, you did well. Well played. I am taking Basilashvili at the -4 games here. Cressy made a name for himself in the first round, beating Carreño Busta. So he came from 2 sets to love down and beat him in a final set tiebreak. It'll be interesting to see how he backs up here off a 5-setter coming in against Basilashvili, who barely raised a sweat in the first round. So it's a tricky spot, I think, for Cressy, and he's such a big, he plays big in terms of his first serve, sometimes goes big on his second serve. I think across the sample size of best of 5, I think there's going to be more opportunities for Basilashvili to get involved in return games and be able to take advantage of a couple of those moments that will come up. Particularly around those break points. And as I said, Basilashvili played, I think it was 11 games against Korda before he had to retire, I think, with his head in a garbage can. So he didn't really enjoy round one, but I think a fresh Basilashvili against Cressy, who, when you look through his recent, I just got some of the stats here, his second serve percentage in terms of points won can really become vulnerable at times. And as I said, over the longer time frame of best of 5 set tennis, I think it's going to open up opportunities for Basilashvili to get involved and break and cover that -4 games.
Beautiful. All right, we'll start there. And then for the women's is Ludmila Samsonova at the $1.50 versus Gret Minnen at $2.58. And the line there is a flat 3 games, 186 the minus, 195 the plus. And the total games is 20.5 with the money strong for the over there, 178, 203 the under. How are we betting here?
I am taking the -3 games here for Samsonova, and she is a player who has really taken her game to the next level and was probably one of those players that was really influenced by COVID suspending the tour last year. So I got the chance to, back when we could travel interstate, I went to the Brisbane tournament at the start of last year and got to watch her as a qualifier come through and beat Sloane Stephens, and then look pretty competitive against Petra Kvitova. And she's been able to go from, I think she was around 130 in the world there. She's on the cusp of breaking into the top 50 now, won a WTA level tournament, a couple of months ago on grass, And she's just looking like she's got the game to be able to match it with a lot of these top players. And I think when you look at Minnen's form over the last couple of weeks in particular, she got in here as a lucky loser with Ostapenko pulling out due to COVID protocols. I think there's a great opportunity here for Samsonova to not only, I think, win here and win well, but I think she is a player that's capable of knocking off Bianca Andreescu in the next round were they to meet there. So I think it's a really interesting spot here in the draw for Samsonova. But I think with a big serve, she looked really great in round one in a 6-3, 6-2 win over Katie Boulter, who's the other half of Alex de Minaur. I think it's a great spot here and a good line. I think I like the -3 flat as well. I think it should cover in straight sets, and it also gives an option of a cover in a 3-setter.
Samsonova at the -3 with top spot. MG, I know you've been betting on AFL, NRL. You've been starting to sink your teeth into NFL. Have you been watching the tennis, or have you taken any futures plays in the tennis? I know you love them.
No. The only one I took in a few multis was Djokovic. I'm just going to keep backing him. Until he loses. I know I've been saying it for a while now, but I just think he's better than the field right now. So Ace has finally come around by the sound of it. He's jumped on board. Hopefully that doesn't mean he stops him, but he's going for the Grand Slam, so he's got a lot to play for right now. And I just think the only thing I will say, Ace, is the thing that concerned me a bit. Did you see Djokovic round one when, I don't know if Scooty saw it, where they were actually chanting the other guy's name and Djokovic thought the crowd was booing him? I thought that was a strange reaction from Djokovic, being the caliber player he was. That worries me because the New York crowd love getting under the skin of players when they show their emotion like that.
Yeah, he really errs on the side of just assuming that everyone hates him. So it does make it a little bit tricky for him in some ways, particularly when he kind of, tries to show everything in such a positive light outside of tennis. It's tricky. I think he was probably struggling a little bit. He hadn't played since the Olympics where he, capitulated against Zverev in the semi-final. It was his first game back because he didn't play any lead-in tournament. So I think he was probably still trying to find his range and form a little bit there as well. It will be interesting to see how the crowds go, I think, across the course of the tournament. But I actually think probably the crowds works better for him than having no crowds, because we saw what happened, last year when he was in his own head. It ended up, being his downfall with that little outburst and strong forehand into the neck of a Lions person.
Yeah, hopefully it's a tough way to do your money, Scoot. You put that one on your bad beat book.
I think it was discussed.
I remember I was watching that match. I got up early to watch it, and the reason why is because I'd made a small little trade on Carreño Busta. I think it was around $19 or $20, and I was livid that it happened at 6-5 in the first set more than anything, because it just meant that it was money back, and on we go to the next round, and Pablo got the win. But look, as I said, I think Medvedev's probably the best chance over the best of five. It will be a fascinating final if they got there, particularly with the history and Novak trying to make sure that he can take that greatest of all time status away from the two names that are missing from this draw.
Yeah. Definite. He's definitely got a bunny to run down, that's for sure. All right, so Djokovic and Medvedev, and Aussie Ash Barty is in the thick of it also. Good to hear that Ash has got another one after an early exit from the Tokyo Games. All right, Ace, we'll let you have a week off, so to speak. You'll be flat out, and we'll get you on next week and get an update when it's the pointy end of the US Open. But thanks for joining us yet again.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks, mate. All right, it's time to talk rugby league next, and some Hall of Fame action with our man from Orange, Top Rope Tedeschi. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot. I'm in ISO, and MG's in studio. And the other man in ISO is in permanent ISO is Nick Tedeschi, Top Rope. How are you?
I'm more of a hermit than the Unabomber. So don't worry about me. I'm not leaving the podcast.
Oh, outstanding stuff, mate. Tell you what, something caught my eye before we get to the Hall of Fame was Nick Politis, the Sydney Roosters Supremo, says that I think their fans are going to get really pissed off and turn off the TV, saying the rules need to be wound back, or the supporters of the cellar dwellers are going to walk away from the great game of rugby league. Thoughts there, Nick?
When you join the mafia, Scooty, that you never leave. Well, that's how it is with rugby league. So no one's ever leaving. mean, they might get a bit annoyed. There might be a few balls in the back of a few heads, but that will be it. Uncle Nick is, if PVL has a rival for the most powerful man in rugby league, Nick Politis is it. He is the doyen of rugby league power. So it will be very interesting to see how this one plays out. I don't know what his relationship with PVL is like, but the NRL certainly have to. I don't know so much winding back the rules. They've got to they've got to show more consistency with how it's interpreted, with how to interpret it. Not we're gonna be heavy on everything at round 10, but come to round 20, they're not enforcing anything.
It's very wishy-washy in the score lines and the totals, like what we've spoken about the last couple of weeks. It's definitely coming to fruition. So, yeah, I guess as a punter, I don't know if punters want consistency, do they? We probably don't.
They don't. They don't. We want the rules to keep changing and people not being able to catch up.
Something that we can't catch up on, the jockeys down at Mornington they got caught. And they're still trying to catch up with them. But that'd be in the Hall of Shame, maybe, for nearly bringing racing to its knees, depending on which slant that you tend to read or look at. Should we be forgiving them? Should we be lauding them? Should we be entering the Hall of Fame? As a side note.
It's the cleaner who I'm most concerned with, who got who very nearly got him or herself into the Hall of Fame.
Just from a sidebar, Kittens is still closed. A lot of people talk about the 212-day lockdown in Melbourne, but Kittens, one of our favourite places in South Melbourne, the Ballet, it's still shut. Can you believe it, Top Rope?
You know, there's been some hard luck stories of COVID in Australia over the last couple of years. That's about as sad as it gets.
Tell you what, with OnlyFans banning illicit content for a while, it would have been absolutely to the wall. But thankfully, OnlyFans have reversed their decision. OnlyFans could be a nomination this week for the Hall of Fame to give the green light to that soft core content. But last week
I would say the OnlyFans change in their content strategy provides a great opportunity for the Australian Jockeys Association to start providing some content.
Who knows what happened down at Mornington? But last week in the Hall of Fame, we inducted Maxi Gawn after kicking the winning goal after the siren against the Cats. And this week, I'd pretty much put the Bookie Smash back into the Hall of Fame. They had a horse $8.50 into $3 during the week. It would have actually erased about 3 or 4 losing weeks on the punt for me. But sure as day, it runs second. So Top Rope, I'm not really sure. I definitely won't put the Sydney Swans. They've cost me lock of the week. They're not my nomination for the Hall of Fame. Toby Green, he's not there either. Who is Hall of Fame this week?
I don't know what a Toby Green is, but definitely not it. I will say this about it. Normally I'm a very selfish human being. It's all just nothing but self-interest. But I want to put one in that did nothing but cause me heartache, despair, and disgust last week. Those on the Warriors plus 6.5 will never get over this. But if you're on the Raiders minus 6.5, this guy's no doubt a hero. Recapping, right? Warriors lead 16-0. They're down 22-16 with 6 seconds to go. For reasons unknown to anybody, the Raiders have the ball and put up a bomb. They don't kick it out. They don't run it out. They don't just get tackled and get the defence. They take the risk of losing the game on a kick return / giving away a penalty, all that kind of. The Warriors fullback drops the ball. The Raiders player scoops up and scores. So it's got to be Matt Frawley into the Hall of Fame for his complete and utter stupidity. It potentially cost the Raiders a game, but did indeed give them the cover. So I hate you, Matt Frawley. You've caused me nothing but despair, but you're in the Hall of Fame.
That's the nomination. My lads chat, all the boys in Sydney, it lit up like a Christmas tree. They were all over this result, and it was priceless. So I think that Matt Frawley's a cracker. Isn't it funny? The punt just always delivers.
Not the last couple of weeks, doesn't it?
Must have been a close call with. Must have been a close call with the mad scientist too, Top Rope. If you were on
Bryson.
him in the golf, geez, watching some of those putts miss.
Oh my God, that was absolutely gutting. It got that stressful. I got in the car and went to Bunnings. I could not keep watching that play off. It was Cantley was draining everything. Bryson could not hit 6-footers. Just put it in the hole, you bludger.
I'll tell you what, that's a life luxury. That's one of the freedoms we don't get down here. Bunnings is it's been locked up and shut. And
you call that a luxury, Scoot. I call it a second prison.
Oh, let's try and make some money on the punt this week in NRL, and let's have a look at Thursday night. We've got a blockbuster here. We've got the Roosters versus the Raiders at Mackay. $1.67, the odds at Top Sport on the Roosters, $2.25 the Raiders, and the line there is 2.5. There's been money for the minus, and total there is 43.5. and 180. The Raiders must win, and they need the Sharks beaten, and they prefer that the Titans don't absolutely piss in. Top Rope, how are you reading this one?
Yeah, hard game. Lean towards the Roosters, but with the caveat that I will not be betting this game until final teams come through. There's a whisper James Tedeschi won't play. They may rest some other players, so betting on this one is expected to be pretty volatile over the rest of the course of today. So Roosters as we speak now, but won't be betting this game until we see final teams.
The Roosters can finish as high as 4th?
They can finish as high as 4th, but the Manly are 22.5 point favourites against the Cowboys. So that's highly unlikely they're going to finish 4th even with a win.
Okay, so let's crystal ball it. If Tedesco is out, which way are you betting? Confirmed.
If Tedesco is out, I'll have something small on the Raiders.
When I read your notes here, cannot recommend a bet on anyone. I think, Jesus, Top Rope's had a really tough week. He's going to struggle with you.
I'll tell you what I don't need this week. Round 25 with constant team changes after last weekend. I need a nice normal week, not this kind of chaos.
All right, the next night match we're going to have a look at is the Sharks versus the Storm at Seabus Super Stadium at the Gold Coast. It's nearly the home of a rugby league at the moment. $1.34 the Storm. Cronulla $3.35. The line 9.5 and 46.5 here. Wow, the Storm. It's nearly side away here. They've rested absolutely plenty.
There is no more stressful game I've probably encountered ever than this one, being the proverbial deep into the Storm for the minor premiership. The team's won 19 straight games and may not win the minor premiership. Absolutely sickening at the moment. So I need them to win this game to wrap up the minor premiership. I was sad to see about half a dozen players rested, but am happy to see that he has named a reasonable side. So money has come for the Storm this week. I think there'll be further restings. You've probably got to be on the Sharks plus 9.5. So I think there might be a couple more out for the Storm, but just prayers Melbourne, prayers Tedeschi.
It's going to be a real interesting one, this, with all the lineups. I don't know.
Interesting, I say stressful.
What would you do? So if you got a good position in the minor premiership, how would you tackle that? What's the best way to trade out?
Trade out? What are you talking about? Well, it's impossible. It's actually impossible to trade out of this one. Really, you could go hard on the Sharks and have a little something on there, but Penrith are going to absolutely destroy the Eels in their game. Eels are wrestling with players, so you can't do anything on saving on the Penrith side.
At least you'll be put out of your misery nice and early, because it's the second game on Friday night is Panthers and the Eels. $1.04 Penrith, $12 the Eels. The line 28.5 and 46 the total. How are we wagering here?
The little Birdie 17 could go close to beating this Parramatta 17. The usual respect, Will Smith is the captain, so they've got 3 first graders. Penrith will annihilate them. They're pretty bad in state. Couldn't really recommend a line bet. The under's hitting 11 straight games, plenty of playmakers out, so I'll be beating the under, but probably going harder on the Eels team total under.
So under has been it's been going the other way. It's been 44.5 early in the week at some places and out to 46.
Yeah, well, I think that everyone's kind of seeing an absolute rout on, which it will be. So it's being the Parramatta team under is probably the way to go on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, the other interesting game is the Gold Coast Titans. So they're a tiny, tiny chance if the Sharks get pumped and then the Raiders don't win either. It's mathematically possible, isn't it, Top Rope?
Yeah, they don't even need to get pumped, really. If the Sharks lose, then the Titans will just need to win by 24 or something like that. So very doable. They are 11.5 point favourites against the Warriors. They will know exactly what they need to do heading into the game. They get the advantage of that. So they probably won't be playing finals football. But, the Raiders could get beat. The Raiders and Sharks are outsiders, so they are still some hope. So I'd say they're you really can't bet this game too hard too early. I'll be having something small on the Titans early, but then if the game is alive, I'll be going very, very hard because they are capable of beating the Warriors by 40 if they need to.
Be interesting to see what the Warriors do here, though. They've probably got a bit of COVID fatigue. They've been on the road for 2 straight years, and I think we put them in the Hall of Fame at the end of last year. Probably this coinciding round or show, given how well they've done there. Everyone's relocated, and it's still just a remarkable performance. As good as the Storm have been on the road, it's incredible what the Warriors have done to keep the game afloat and, I guess, keep their livelihoods and careers. I'll have a quick look at the odds with Top Sport now. $1.27 the Titans, Warriors 385, 11.5 is the line, and 52.5. So big chance there for the Titans to cover. Lock of the week. Can we talk about lock of the week? Should we talk about lock of the week? I'll tell you what, Sydney Swans, 2-7. Peppered. I put the kiss of death on them again.
You only just missed, Scurdy. 1 point.
Well, you either win or you don't, and we didn't.
Not your first bad beat for the year. Yeah. No. Well, the good thing is with lock of the week that we're all back to the start, so we've wasted 25 weeks trying to get a profit. We start again. We've got to get something on the board here late, gents.
It's embarrassing, isn't it? It's been a year for upsets, though. You could drive yourself mad looking for bankers.
We haven't shown much signs of life, really, have we? We've been.
You saw my message throughout the weeks, Scooty. I have driven myself mad.
All right, who's going to open it up? MG, another little $3.50 treble.
No, well, I've only got 2 games to choose from, so I'm playing at the shallow end of the pool this week. As we discussed earlier with the AFL, I just think the 2 favourites will get it done, and I'm just going to take them head to head. Geelong 137 into Brisbane at 162. About 5-4 is the odds, and we'll start again from the 200, and we'll try and build it up really late, Scoot.
Nice and weak. Just what I expected, actually, from you, MG. What about you, Top Rope?
I am having a double. I'm having St George Illawarra into the Brisbane Broncos.
St George
225 into about 210. So do the maths on that one.
I'm going to go for it's not really a Hail Mary play, but I'm going to try and chase down this 5K for raise.org.au, and I'm going to have a really good swing here. I'm going to cheat, which is right in my wheelhouse. There's a horse I've been waiting for at Moonee Valley. It's race 5 in the McEwen. It's number 5, Wisdom of Water. First up over 1,000 metres. It's $12. So I'm just going to have my 200 for charity on Moonee Valley race 5, number 5, Wisdom of Water, to go right outside the square. It's a sports show, but I'm going to bet racing because it gets up your nose.
I didn't realise that lock of the week had become dart of the week.
We haven't figured it out after 25 weeks. You're a slow learner. Next, you'll be telling me that lockdowns work.
At least he's only got 1 cheer. Normally he has 5 or 6. So be over quickly.
All right. It's been a fantastic show. It's going to be rugby league finals next week. So we're going to get into the serious business. It's starting to be, well, are the Storm chinky, or is it just a Bart Cummings type preparation for the Storm? Are you nervous? I know you're nervous about the minor premiership, but are you nervous about the premiership yet, Top Rope?
I'm not nervous, Scooty. I'm sick to my guts. Ever since the Pap got back, things have gone dreadfully awry. I don't know what to do. Bellamy doesn't know what to do. I think there's too much of a good thing at the Storm. Worried, very worried. But don't lay off.
Hold on tight. At least you're on at the good price. Yeah, and the Rabbits, Latrell?
Go on. Can't win.
Can't win without Latrell.
Can't win without Latrell.
That's the first thing that MG texted me as soon as the big hit come through, and I think everyone out there thinks exactly the same. All right, that's a wrap from us. Make sure you check out Third and Long, our NFL show. It's got Top Rope and MG with Paige Cadrona and Corey McKernan. They're going to get special guests in each week, and they're going to go through all the NFL action. So guess what? You stuck with us all summer. We'll get some NFL to get us through the boring months without AFL and NRL. So make sure you check out Little Birdie TV on YouTube or on our podcast channels, and you'll pick up Third and Long, our new NFL show. And we're also recording Bet Doctor this week, so make sure you check out that as well. Big thanks from me in ISO, and good luck up there in Orange. Hope the golf handicap's coming down, top rope, and Marcos down in Melbourne here. We might as well get rid of our sticks. Might as well sell them. Useless.
Yeah, our handicaps will be interesting when we finally get back. Getting hustled by top rope.
Please, my golf's going as well as my gambling.
See you next week.